Today's guest is EJ Michels. Based out of Salt Lake City, EJ has built a reputation as a prominent figure in his local scene, both as a solo artist and the lead singer of Foreign Figures. Welcome, EJ.
What's up?
Welcome.
Hey.
Excited to have you, man. It's been great.
Thank
We
you.
just spoke at a show last week, which you did amazing at.
Thank
We've,
you.
it's been great to be able to get you to this show. Um, so let's start back at the beginning. How did you first get into music? Well, first, did you grow up in Utah?
Yeah, so I'm from Draper, Utah. I actually live here. Didn't think I'd actually move here long term. I started with music from an early age, just taking piano lessons. I did this thing called Suzuki. It's classical music, and I was trained by ear. So basically, I didn't really learn how to read music, and I did that for a couple years. Piano was my main thing, and then I think it was in high school, the beginning of high school. My brother had a band always, and he was the singer and drummer, and my sister sang. So they really inspired me to start singing. And I think in high school, I wrote my first song with my brother, and that song went on to become the junior prom theme. And I performed it at the Capitol for my high school, and
Wow.
then I watched a movie called Music and Lyrics, and it just kind of inspired me to write a song. And I sat down at my piano, and it was really hard to write something from the get go. So I started out with collaborating with my brother rather than on my own. He left on a mission. Then I think that was 11th grade. I just took off with my passion with music. I started writing songs on my own. I started taking professional voice lessons. I started going to all these music workshops. He came back and we kind of started this duo,
Hmm.
this acoustic duo, and music just I don't know. I think I kind of found my passion of how obsessed I am with songwriting and singing and performing and meeting other people who love music and all the music nerds out there and whatnot. And um, when I wasn't working, I literally was just singing and writing music, and eventually it turned into a full time thing. I about 6 or 7 years ago, when was this? In 2014, came back from an LDS mission, like all other Utah boys do. I grew up LDS, and thought I was gonna get into business, but my one friend who I was in a band with before I left for about a year and a half, like a garage band. His name's Seth. He's like, dude, are we gonna jam again? Are we gonna get together? And I'm like, dude, I can't. Like, I got a business degree, bro. Like, I gotta take care of a family. Like, I can't do that. And then literally within a week, I ended up in a basement rehearsing and writing songs with them and playing a show at the Wall at BYU, and then we met another friend who was into music, and he started recording our stuff, Johnny T, and the four of us just kind of from then on just have nonstop always continued to be like really good friends and making music since. And that eventually snowballed into Foreign Figures, and a lot of amazing things have happened since then. And now I'm kind of pursuing both, doing the band and my solo project.
It's awesome. When you guys first started, were you Foreign Figures? Was that your first band as the four of you, or did you change names?
Uh, we actually, this is before my mission. It was Seth, Steve, and I, and another friend who's not in the band anymore. We were called the Hideout, and we were banned for about a year and a half. And then after, when we restarted again, we were the Hideout. But then when Johnny came on, that's when we came up with the new name. We just had this group chat of like, oh, we gotta come up with a name because the Hideout is a bar in Chicago. There's like six other bands with that name. We don't feel like it's super original. And we were just throwing out like name after name. And I remember I was like Foreign Fields, like I put out their Foreign Figures, and then one of our old members that used to be in the band was like, dude, that rolls off the tongue so well. I don't know what it means, but it's like it's provocative.
Provocative.
I threw that in there. He didn't say provocative. He's
I
like,
like it though.
I remember he said it rolled off the tongue, and I was like, oh, dope. Yeah, that is kind of cool. And then we kind of built a meaning into it of unity and us wanting to kind of bring people together, regardless of our differences, and just kind of how each band member is such, a different, separate individual on their own,
Yeah.
singer, songwriter wise, personality, beliefs, like everything. But we somehow, the music brought us together, and that's kind of the tie into the name Foreign Figures. And yeah, so, and since then, we just have like taken a year and a half, a little bit, or no, not a year and a half, actually like a year break of releasing Foreign Figures exclusive music to do our solo projects. And now we're just getting back into doing Foreign Figures music again. We're in a writing process right now with that.
Awesome. I'm excited to hear. I've loved your stuff that you've been releasing. And we've always loved Foreign Figures too. We've known you guys for a while, and
Thank you.
it's exciting to hear that you're back in the studio. We love to hear that you're writing.
Thank
That's awesome,
you.
man.
I
Yeah.
it's super fun, and man, writing's not for the it's not for the faint of heart. That's all I gotta say, because some songs will come out super easy and it's like a blessing from the heavens above. You're like, wow, this is like that was super easy. And then most of the time it's like trial and error, it's rewrites, uh, it's sitting with like song on song and on idea on idea on idea, and just like sometimes not getting anywhere. But I guess it's kind of that daily persistence that gets us somewhere.
Yeah, well, and it can be a vulnerable process as well. You're exposing a lot of your ideas and everything. So absolutely, songwriting, not for the faint of heart. I love that. That's fantastic. Uh, so so you're working with Foreign Figures again. What does doing music mean to you? What's your motivation for pursuing this career?
It's always been about connection for me. Uh, Never about kind of the money, or I mean, maybe when I first started, it was kind of about this like, ooh, fame.
Yeah,
Like, ooh, me on top of the stage and everyone watching. Like, but that slowly faded, and I feel like if I have gotten into music because of that, I definitely would have burnt out. I mean, I've burnt out many times, but because of my passion for expression and connection, it's probably the only thing that really keeps me going back to it, to be honest, because it's kind of a crazy career if you think about it, like with little financial return and with a lot of money invested and a lot of passion and time and energy invested. So for me, it's always been about that connection with other humans, with other people, reaching other people's, kind of to their cores in a sense. And maybe that kind of came from when I connected with music really strongly for the first time. I remember the band Coldplay's music doing that for me when I was in, I think, eighth or ninth grade. Just, and even now, and any, not just Coldplay, but just different artists. Some of my like iconic evergreen artists that I listen to and follow, even on Instagram. Um, they just have done something for me. Like they've reached kind of the inner core of myself, where I feel like a lot of people, I don't know, I feel like it's almost like you get to know someone like as if they're your friend, even though they live in London or they're across the world. It's like you become like best friends with them just by listening to their music. And um, it's like this whole dynamic of relating with other people and with sharing experiences and helping each other through experiences and whatnot. So there's
yeah,
definitely a therapeutic and cathartic aspect to that just, I don't know, for me at least, like it's keeps me in for sure.
yeah. Well, that's something that musicians they have a strong hold on people, like you mentioned, with that connection. You can relate to somebody, and they can kind of become your best friend. Do you believe that musicians have a social responsibility in their communities with that connection?
I guess it's whatever. Yes and no. I think that kind of I think that kind of just depends on the individual. Because every musician just has such different motives and intentions and beliefs and personas and whatnot. And I don't really like the idea of like putting a responsibility on, an over amount of people in a sense. Like,
Yeah.
um, so probably not. No, I think it's more so like the ones that do naturally kind of want to do that and do that well are going to kind of fill that need, if that makes sense. Like
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
plenty of them out there, that are going to be doing that. So regardless.
So kind of like staying in your lane, doing what you think, and then whoever it resonates with essentially is
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just one huge lesson I learned back when I first started doing music and wanted to become an artist and all these things. I went and saw this artist coach actually and like paid a good amount of money to go and have a session with her. And she was like, it's about you just resonating with your people. Not everyone's going to like it. And you look at someone like Taylor Swift, like she's done that really well. She's kind of found her people and her fans, and also she has probably a following of haters, and like that's just kind of how it goes. Like in the music industry, not everyone's gonna like you. Some people are gonna like be repulsed by you, and some people are gonna like die over you. And it's like being comfortable with the fact that, I guess not being comfortable, being confident with the fact that um 50 to 60% of people will be indifferent, and the other 40 might be like, oh, it's all right. And then you might have like the 10% raving fan. And
Yeah.
then you might have like the 2% like, I hate you.
And sometimes, unfortunately, those are the loudest, huh?
Yeah, or they're the loudest. And it's just like, stop being so mean.
Oh man, that's awesome. Well, so you've played a lot of live shows in your time,
Oh yeah.
all across the country, and some pretty big ones. You've done some pretty prestigious shows.
Yeah.
What's your process before you go on stage? Do you have a routine that you follow?
Um, yeah, we have played definitely hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of shows. Sure, back when COVID wasn't a thing, that was my life. Like every week, we're performing several times a week. Um, I've seen myself getting in my head sometimes before I go on stage. Maybe it's an anxiety thing. Like everyone's watching, everyone's gonna be like judging and critiquing every little thing I do, from how I move to how I talk to how I dress to what the band is doing to the type of music, the sound, like this and that. And it's I kind of, when I first started, that was really difficult for me. I don't know if I really could shake off those feelings. I just kind of threw myself into them regardless of them, because feelings are just fleeting. They are there, and most of the time they don't always go away. But I just got good at like forcing myself to kind of do hard stuff regardless of the anxiety, the fear, the insecurity and whatnot. And the more and more I say that I just did that, the more and more comfortable I became with myself. Um, and I think I'm getting to a place in my life where I'm just, I guess, becoming more coherent with myself, and in a sense of just like I can play and sing and do my thing regardless of kind of how people react to it. However, it depends on the gig. Because like certain gigs, I'm just kind of like, I remember so playing the gig last week, that's an LGBTQ thing. So it's like obviously I'm gonna walk into that thing feeling 100% myself and 100% confident, and like I can just lay it all out there. But then
Yeah.
if I'm doing a different type of gig, you know, I have to think about like if it's a kindness assembly in Utah and it's at a middle school, I can't necessarily talk about everything and share every part of myself because there's a lot of taboo around it, and like I have to share a certain type of message, and then I kind of have to, in a sense, it feels like sometimes filter out real parts of myself. But I don't know. I've found I want to play gigs and do things where I can like 100% show up as myself. And gigs and performances where I can't, like, ugh, I'm just like, I don't want to do it. Like before the show, honestly, if I just have fun before, like if I just do things that get me out of my head, usually that I perform so much better. Like from even playing a video game. I remember once dancing with my band behind stage, like just singing and dancing before we went out, and we had so much fun. Just we were feeling confident, and so I guess if I can get myself in that playful, innocent part of being young at heart, that comes out and shows on stage rather than in like a place of insecurity and darkness and hiding and shame in a sense, like I'm nervous, like this and that, and like I need to be all quiet, and like so getting myself, like sometimes it's just weird. Sometimes I'll go to myself and will I've done a lot of things. I've meditated before, like I've laid down and closed my eyes and listened to music. I've played games. I've had fun. There's definitely no one answer. It's just kind of like in that moment, what feels authentic for me. If I'm
Yeah,
like not in the mood to like go and dance and be all happy, like I'm not gonna do it. Like
yeah.
go be quiet because I don't know. I just humans are complex, and like some moments were like leave me alone, and some moments were like yes, I want to be around people and have fun and whatnot.
Yeah, yeah. I love that perspective actually. That's an interesting perspective of you know, the different types of shows, bringing on a different energy and different mind space for you. Because everybody has bad shows if the crowd isn't as engaged, or maybe the band's off, or there could be so many things that happen. But that's an interesting perspective for beforehand. When you're on stage, if it's a rougher night, sort of thing, whatever the reason may be, do you find it difficult to pull yourself into a place where you can be consistent? Or at this point, I assume you have it evened out. I've never seen you have a bad show, but
Definitely have had many bad shows for sure. I remember once playing at like for up north at this city hall for these high schoolers who had dropped out, who were struggling and whatnot. And I remember we just started performing, and all of them just like were either looking down or like just did not care that we were like literally give no f like about anything. And I was like, how do you go about this? Like, do you like underperform? Do you like try to bring up the energy? Do you just kind of go with their energy? Um, but I don't know. I think I've gotten good at treating it like a job, like work. When I go on stage, in a sense, I'm in, performing mode. And regardless of my emotion or where I'm at, it's like time to do my thing. And sometimes, um, have felt like a monkey just kind of performing, like where it's like I'm just like forcing myself to perform and move and whatnot, and like, and then a lot of the times it's just easy and fun. It's kind of like dating. It's like when you first start dating someone, it's all fun and games, and you're excited, and you're like, they're so hot. I can't wait to go see them and kiss them. And then, kind of when you get into the routine of a relationship, it doesn't mean that you don't love it anymore, or that you don't want it, or that it's not right for you. It's just more so it becomes more like work. It's not easy anymore. It's not like on a silver platter. It's like it just becomes that in a sense, and you have to find different ways of making it fun again. If that makes sense.
yeah,
Especially
yeah,
when
no,
you play the
absolutely.
same songs over and over and over again, and like doing the same show over and over and over again. Like we'd change up our show a lot, and like just keeping our creativity on fire and just keeping our crate just fresh, I guess, keeps me feeling fulfilled.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, you've played all over the country. What would you say Utah is like compared to other scenes that you've played in?
Man, honestly, I love our Utah crowd. Maybe it's just because we're from here and our fans like know us really well, and they're so stoked when we go on stage. Everyone's so happy, and it makes me happy, um and yeah, so I definitely love performing in Utah to like obviously to our crowd because we've played to people who aren't our fans and whatnot, and yeah, I feel like Utah is a great place for music. I feel like fans here are generous and they pay for merch and they come out to shows and they're there with you and like they engage and they dance and they have fun. Um, Outside of Utah, um, I guess it depends on the demographic because we've played in many different demographics. Like we played in a small town in Wyoming once. Like literally, it was all cowboys, and I literally like went up to the stage. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, like this like this gay guy is gonna go up here who's like the least cowboy you'd ever meet in your life who was not raised on a farm like is not gonna be singing country music like
Yeah,
is gonna we're just gonna do our thing and like yeah those are the moments where I feel uncomfortable where it's like almost like you don't know if you fit in to the equation
mm,
in a sense
yeah,
music wise or like demographic wise and like for the most part like people like to sit and watch, but then you'll actually get people that will come up and usually for us it's always like the younger girls, sometimes like the old dad, like the once in a while the dad. And it's just interesting to see what type of demographic that you kind of pull towards you as a fan and like with the music you do and whatnot. And so I kind of, it's just a rush for me, just going and performing in front of any demographic, any type of person. So you never know what's going to happen. And it's just like, well, here we go. We definitely stick out like a sore thumb and we're just going to do our thing.
that's funny. Oh man, that's awesome. That's awesome. It does sound like a rush, to all those different crowds because people are receptive to different things.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
and that's actually one point that you talk about. I've noticed on your social posts and at the show last week, the LGBTQ performance, being authentic. You've talked about how important it is for somebody to be authentic, and how impactful that's been in your life.
Yeah.
What would you say to somebody who is struggling being authentic out of fear of being authentic and being judged?
Oh man, because that was me for so long. And I can even now in my life can see myself getting back in those spirals sometimes, like getting caught
Mm,
up in the whirlwind of like losing my authenticity even like that could be who I'm dating and them not bringing out my authentic self, or that could be a show I play, or. But I would say just to be really easy on yourself. Like it's so easy for us to kind of beat ourselves up when it's like, oh, we should be authentic constantly, and if we're not, like we're wrong or we're bad. And I just really think getting rid of and ridding yourself of shame is probably my top priority. And that helps me just live a more authentic life, honestly, of just kind of ridding myself of shame of any imperfection I have that makes me feel like I can't be authentic because of this. Like I can't be authentic because of that. So anyone that's going through that, I would just say to take it one day at a time and to be easy on yourself and to allow yourself to live outside of that fear of shame, of judgment, and kind of see where that will take you. It's scary, is all get out. Like putting yourself out there, being like, I don't know, having thoughts of like, am I good enough? Am I talented enough? Am I good looking enough? Am I, you know, for one reason or another? And but Yeah, and I think about it, it's like, why are people afraid of being authentic? And I think that can come down to the shame and the fear of rejection and people rejecting us in one way or another, whether if that's like no one's listening to our music or no one wants to date me or like I'm not getting any clients for my business or like my family members, this or that. It's just kind of like that fear of rejection. But I've never seen myself really thrive in that emotion and that space. I've always seen myself just be super fulfilled and happy when I'm like 100% myself, and even I think I'm attracted to artists that are like that. Like one of my favorite artists is Bishop Briggs. She
Oh
gets
yeah.
on stage and like she is just this badass woman that shaved her head and like the sickest voice, and she just does her thing. And she even will say like, "Oh, I feel so free on stage. I feel like I can be anything I want. I feel like I could be myself." And I'm like, I love that. Like, I love this human. I love this person. So I would just say, yeah, not to not be so
Yeah,
hard on yourself and try making some mistakes and figuring out who you are.
I think that's great. You mentioned it's an ongoing process. Obviously, life is long, I mean, ideally, and so you go through a lot of different phases. You're not just one person. How do you continue to be authentic? You mentioned meditation earlier. um does that help? You said sometimes you feel like you're slipping in certain aspects for a certain time period. How do you readjust?
I usually will surround myself first and foremost with people that I can be my authentic self with and that bring that out. I When I surround myself honestly with good, lighthearted, positive people in my life that bring out the best in me, it honestly creates even more of a safe space for me to be more authentic and to want to go and do things that are authentic to me, like doing my routine. Like I love fitness, I love CrossFit, and yoga has. I've always loved yoga, but that's become more and more of a thing that has kind of brought out the good side of me. And honestly, being able to do my solo project has been huge for me because I felt like I don't know, just for so long, like when you're in a band and you're in a dynamic where you're collaborating with others, we all kind of felt this, where you can't really share your individual light that you want to share. And I think that was a huge thing for me, being able to say what I want to say, sing about what I want to sing exactly how I want to sing. And um, yeah, so I would just say who I surround myself with is a huge thing for me. Like our surroundings are so important. Even though
Yeah,
like people obviously I do believe in the saying that like um I just believe yeah, I believe in the saying that the five people you surround yourself with the most is kind of gonna become you in a sense. So that's I don't know. That's kind of what's super important for me and helping me be my most authentic person.
I like that. I like that a lot, and that absolutely makes sense. You collaborate energy in a way, with the people around you. So yeah, I like that. I think that's fantastic, and that comes out in your writing. I've noticed throughout your songwriting, it seems like um, you are authentic in your lyrics and in your songs. Um, and so let's actually talk about your latest song. I'm not a rock star. What inspired that song?
I just feel like I don't. How do I say this? Growing up in Utah, in a religious community, I grew up LDS. I never feel like I fit in that. I don't know. I always have felt like I've been like this square peg trying to fit in a round hole my whole life. Just like trying to fit me somewhere. And I felt like I've always have tried to like fit that square peg into round holes my entire life. And it has never worked for me. Whether if that was like, when I being gay, I married a woman and in certain ways trying to write songs that didn't feel authentic to me, and trying to hang out with people or date people that didn't, I'd feel like I couldn't be my authentic self, or like just doing shit like that that just didn't work. But um remind me your question again. I like sidetrack. And now I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I even saying? Oh, I'm not a
You're
rock
good.
star. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So going back to I'm not a rock star, I kind of felt inspired when I was writing that tune. I think the lyric just came out when I was singing the chorus. I'm not a rock star. And I thought of that, and I was just like, people are always telling me like, oh, EJ, like you're such a rock star on stage and this and that. And like, while I kind of get into that role of like my alter self when I'm on stage with the band, I love that a little bit. It kind of brings out a more confident version of myself. In real life, I'm actually a little bit more, I'm shyer, and like, I like to think I'm cute. Like, I guess I don't know, like I'm more goofy in real life, and after coming out, like I don't drink, and like I've never been high, and but I'm also, I don't really live a super conservative lifestyle at the same time, and sometimes it's hard for me to find like-minded or people that are like me. I sometimes feel like I'm just this weird oddball that doesn't really kind of fit into any specific community or with anyone sometimes. So it's just, that whole song came about of just like, I'm not, this is my persona of just kind of like, I don't feel like I'm a rock star, and kind of owning that and just being like confident in the fact that I'm not your typical rock star in a sense, and that's okay. And like
Yeah.
whether people like whatever they say or this or that, like I'm just kind of gonna own it. Kind of where that came from.
I love that. I love that. I think that's awesome. I think it is often, um, it's an interesting aspect of life. Growing up a certain way, and then just evolving as you go. It's just how it is, and it's interesting. And I like that. That's what you're referencing in that. And you mentioned when you go on stage and when you you know perform and everything, you kind of have this alter ego. Uh, what helped develop that? Like, I know that's a popular thing with, Bono did that. His real name's Paul, but he's Bono, so that he can get
Yeah,
into a different
kind
headspace.
of like the
Uh,
EJ rather than Eric.
yeah.
Um, I guess it's kind of the world we've created with the band. Our music kind of, what we have talked about with our sound and what we want to do as a band is to kind of create songs that empower people and help people feel confident in themselves. And that kind of brings out the confidence within myself when I go on stage, and the energy of the songs. It honestly just makes me feel like a badass when I go on stage. And um, it's like the place, I don't know, it's like a place where you can. I actually learned this from a guy when I first started performing. I always struggled with kind of really taking reins of that authority when you're on stage. And he's like, it is your duty when you go on stage. It is your duty, literally, to go and take control, because everyone there, whether they bought a ticket or they're just walking by, it's like that is your job, is to lead and control, basically to lead the show, and to really stand in your place and take up space and to be confident. So I really took that to heart, because it was always in me to think like, oh no, who am I to think that I can stand on a stage and command it? Or, being like such a shy kid growing up, that was just not who I was for so long. But I just threw myself into the complete deep end of that, and was just like, I don't know, kind of in a sense created my better self when I'm on stage, that I love throwing myself into. Um, and it's
Yeah.
usually, it depends on the song too. Some songs are more emotional, but for the most part, Foreign Figures sound of what we have been creating and what has been working for us has kind of been more of like a cool kid, confident vibe, kind of like a badass Coldplay.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. And that makes sense. That's I think that's important, and you do it well.
Thank you.
What are your plans for the future going forward? What are your goals with everything?
Continuing to work on my solo project is definitely a thing. Like I have a single coming out hopefully the end of April. I
Oh,
have a
nice.
music video for I'm Not a Rock Star that I'm working on that I just have to film the other half in April, and I'll be putting that out as well in April. It's going to be a super fun one, just not going to take it too seriously. And then I'm doing a collaboration with my brother Steve, going to be putting out like a collaboration with him. Just and then with the band, we already have a lot of festivals starting to be lined up for the summer that we're going to be gearing to prepare for, as well
Nice.
as working on I think another Foreign Figures EP, like maybe a 4-song EP or something like that. So we're kind of in the trenches of writing and whatnot. So with Foreign Figures, I don't know when that's going to be coming. Sometimes it can literally all happen within a month and the songs just come to us. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer. So we'll kind of see where that takes me. So gonna be doing
Very nice.
all of those projects. Like I just love
Nice.
staying I just love staying engaged with constant releases, and songwriting for me is not a thing where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna sit down and write. It's usually something that just bleeds out of me when I need to get it out. And then when it comes, I just listen and I do it.
Yeah, man. It sounds like you're a busy man then. Got a lot going on.
For the most part. And I mean, there's definitely some days where I'm like, this is gonna be a self care day. I'm just gonna take a bath and like watch Netflix and not even think about music.
You need those. You need those.
Oh yeah, like literally, if I don't have balance in my life, I literally just crumble down into dust. So I have to.
Oh no. uh, yeah, no, I think that's awesome. Well, we look forward to hearing what you come out with next and all your different projects. That's awesome. That's fantastic.
Thank
What
you.
advice do you have? I like to ask um,
Yeah.
people for advice for upcoming musicians. What advice would you have for them?
I would just say to do your thing and to follow your gut and to not let anyone in your head to stop you from creating. And I think music is just so subjective to the point of like, yeah, there's objective, good and bad songs and what like that, but I would just say to any artist, like, let that free flow of creativity just run wild and don't let anything really get you up and wrapped up in your head too much that would stop you from what makes you happy.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I think that's great. I think that's everything. Honestly, don't stop yourself, right?
Yeah, don't get in your own way. We get in our own way so many times. It's just like, stop it. Stop.
Yeah. It's been great having you on. I've loved this conversation. It's been great to hear more about what you've got going on and your story. We'll be sure to stay in touch, and hopefully we'll see you again soon.
Okay. Much love, my guys.
Hey, you too, man. Take care, and we'll
Yeah.
talk soon.